Thanks for tuning in to the Drive On podcast, where we're focused on giving hope and strength to the entire military community. Whether you're a veteran, active duty, guard, reserve, or a family member, this podcast will share inspirational stories and resources that are useful to you. I'm your host, Scott DeLucio, and now let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Drive On podcast. Today, my guest is Clinton Dye. Clinton is a 4-tour Marine Corps combat veteran. He struggled with PTSD from not only his deployments, but also his early childhood. And while he coped with that in some not so healthy ways, he's now on a mission of positivity to help others drop those destructive habits and recover their higher purpose in life. So welcome to the show, Clinton. I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. You hit the nail on the head 100%. So if we go all the way back into my childhood, the audience doesn't know I was present as a 5-year-old when my mother shot my father in self-defense. In a drunken rage, he was high, drunk, looking for money in the house. And she did that, right in front of me. So I grew up super poor, a child of the trailer park in inner Houston. And this was my life throughout all my young childhood until my father got clean and I had to deal with that trauma over time. And this was just one of many events that any child in a situation with domestic violence would have to deal with. And over the years, I struggled with creating my mind, body, and spirit from, the lure of, crime, addiction. They use drugs, heroin, cocaine, alcohol continually. These were just commonplaces in the environment. And it took a lot of work and struggle over my life to kind of move past this early childhood drama into adulthood, and ended up enlisting in the Marine Corps, which, started my journey of a different type of trauma, if you will. But I attribute those young years of trauma is one of the only reasons I survived 4 combat tours and retained some mental capacity post-war, where a lot of my, colleagues struggled with PTSD, end up taking their lives. I think the audience is pretty wide here and understands the struggles of just minimum exposure to combat and how they struggled mentally as a functioning adult later. I was no different.
So when you were talking about how the childhood trauma kind of was in a way a benefit for you in your time, I don't want to say a benefit, right? But it helped you in your time later on in the Marine Corps. Was that because you felt like you've already learned how to process some of the trauma and kind of cope with it from an early age? And that is what helped you later on when you're in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, 100%. I view trauma as a mechanism for evolution, right? As an individual. So you must harden yourself to survive. The mind and the body just can't deal with the stress. So over time, your ability to handle different stressors increases, right? Obviously, the Marine Corps is full throttle stress all the time. And then you couple that with combat veteran, right? 4 tours where it's 15, 17, 18-hour days, 7 days a week for 6 to 10 months at a time, limited food, limited water, no outlet. You just have each other and execution, right? Maybe you're throwing around some weights from time to time, but there is very little psychological outlet in combat. And I attribute that those young years of really difficult and horrible times is sort of the mechanism that preserved what little was left of a functioning human during combat, right? It hardened me.
Right. And so that hardening early on helped to basically deflect some of the trauma that you experienced later on in life, right? That's kind of what it seems like, right?
Yeah, 100%. So I had the ability to put up, psychological walls and then just push through the trauma. Those things didn't bother me and affect me in the moment like it affected other people. My troops used to really hate me in a function because I was the first one up and then the last one into the tent or the sleeping area and the first one asleep. My conscience was 100% clear in combat. So sleep and those kinds of things, I was not very well affected by combat stress in the moment. Later in life, I had the put the pieces back to Humpty Dumpty. But in the moment, I executed rather efficiently in combat.
Right. So during the in that moment, you're at that point where you're able to kind of deal with things. You're seemingly unaffected by a lot of the stuff that other people were probably way more affected by. But later on, it all kind of caught up to you, didn't it?
Yeah, 100%. So, like anything, there's scars, right? So, combat and all those trauma produce scars, and those were unmanaged wounds that I had in life. And you know, I focused on execution, and I didn't have the tools necessary to deal with those traumas in the moment before or ever until later in life. And yeah, those things caught up to me in a pretty horrible way later in life. And that's
So
where my next struggle started.
yeah, I was just gonna say, so let's talk about that, how you struggled and what that all looked like. So kind of when did you realize that there's this thing, PTSD, that maybe was affecting you?
Oh gosh, it took me, I was a decade behind the curve, you know. So after I got out of the Marine Corps in 2009, attended college, bachelor's in software engineering, master's in software engineering, then a year of PhD before I just burnt out with higher education. But I started to notice a trend in my life. If I wasn't hyper focused on success or the next bigger goal, those emotions caught up to me. Right. So I was using personal excellence and some larger goal to really not have to deal with all those problems. Right. So they started to manifest their way, as you could imagine, in competitive adult drinking. Right. That's a very typical mantra in the Marine Corps. You know, it's like a giant fraternity at the time. This is 2 decades ago. So there was a lot of drinking, post 60 minutes, silent drill team scandal, you know, in the 90s, et cetera. So drinking was just a way that the warriors managed their stress. You know, they're oppressed. All the services are very similar in how they treat individuals. It's very harsh life to manage young adult men in whole. Some services manage it better, Air Force, maybe the Coast Guard, but Navy, the Marines, and the Army, specifically the combat arms, the ones that have a little bit rougher life, alcohol is their weapon of choice to manage those stresses. Right. So I was no different. I would drink, you know, it'd start easy, you know, one drink a day would turn into two, three. Then, you know, it's drinking a bottle or two of wine with the wife. And then, you know, it's drinking with the boys on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and binge watching football all day and drinking beer. And then it's hard liquor. And then it turns into smoking weed. And then it's, oh, let's do some Coke. And then it's, you know, it never stops. It just, there's no getting that demon off your back until you manage figure out a way to release the emotions and just deal with it.
Yeah. So all of these emotions, and you're absolutely right. I just kind of want to go back for a sec, talking about the way that, especially like combat arms and the Marines, Army, Navy, they all kind of deal with things with drinking. And it's almost encouraged in a way. Like it's,
Right.
you just get people going out and drinking, doing stupid stuff and coming back. And that just becomes the way that you deal with things. And you sort of learn to deal with things through the military by repetition, just like you do with anything else. You go out
Yeah.
drinking all the time. It's like, oh, okay, well, now I don't feel quite as stressed anymore or whatever, you know, and then
Right.
it helps in that way. But it's again, it's not a healthy way to deal with these things. So you're you're drinking more and more. That's really how you're dealing with your stress. You're getting into some other things too, not just the drinking. When did you have that moment when you realized that something needed to change? Some people call it a rock bottom moment. I don't know if that was kind of your situation or but everyone really has when they decide that they're done with this lifestyle, they realize something's gotta change. When did you have that kind of moment?
Sure. So that moment for the final moment, there were times where I was able to limit that, but towards, I'd say about maybe 12 months ago, yeah, January-ish. So coming out of, I was working as a defense contractor for a large defense contractor organization, and we're providing services to combat troops in combat zones. So Afghanistan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, others, communications assets. And coming out of one of those site visits, you know, I hadn't fixed all those problems post COVID. I was drinking more and more during every day to just not my best self, managing the COVID stress and life stress and my workload professionally, I would say double or tripled during COVID. We lost due to attrition and funding. My professional workload just went through the roof. I hadn't worked these kind of hours selflessly since I was in combat. Right. So just dealing with that, once again, pull out the bottle to manage that. Right. Coming out of that, I started to turn into, not my best self, a person I'd rather be. Well, I'm proud that I turned it around, but who I turned into was, an embarrassing an adult. I put on a lot of weight. I wasn't physically fit. I wasn't keeping my word to myself and my people. I was embarrassing to my children. I actually lost my girlfriend of a year and a half. We were discussing about next steps, moving in and on to marriage. I returned from Saudi Arabia to an empty house. My girlfriend of a year and a half didn't even call me to let me know she broke up with me. Right. She just left. Right. So I had to go through that. Obviously, I caught COVID, boohoo, poor me. Right. So I had all these things that I was dealing with coming out of the combat zone, losing your girlfriend that you love, and then, being sick on top of it. I had a good 10 days of self reflection. I was like, I am fucked up. Like, I need to get it together. This isn't the man that I want raising my own children. This isn't a man that I want to do business with. This isn't a man that I can respect in all aspects of what I define a positive male role model and a man I was in violation of. I was in a violation of my entire moral ethics internally. So a friend of mine, Eric, he's out there somewhere. If he ever sees this, he drives a Lamborghini. He's a dope dude, beautiful woman, great relationship. He turned me on to a mentor, coming in February. I tried to follow the mentor and not pay the price, whatever. It took a few months before I figured out, like, you know what? I do need help. I need someone that's an alpha male, that's rough around the corners, that's killing it in the way that I can respect. So he has everything that I ever desired in life. He's living that life. And I picked up a mentor and we started to have some of those conversations, and he put me onto a path very rapidly on how to fix my shit and return myself back to my best self. And that was really the journey. So it was about a year ago to 6 months in between that zone to where I started to devote 100% of my effort into rebuilding the man I could respect.
So, what did that process look like? I mean, obviously you were talking to this guy, you wrap your head around what's going on in my life and how do I get this better? But what did the overall process look like that got you to the point where you are today?
Sure. The the process is very straightforward and it sounds too simple to be real, but it is. So first things first, we have a meeting, right? He sets it up, we have a call. He's like, hey, we're gonna get you on this team. This is what you're gonna do. All right. You need to do these things and these are non-negotiable. If you can't do these things, it's not gonna work. And you need to do something different with yourself. The old you is just gonna stay. So first thing happens is we get up early. So early rise is a cornerstone of my program and a program he taught me. So we get up early, way earlier than everybody. He gets up at 3, I think it's right around 3 a.m. That's the time he gets up every day. I get up at 4 a.m. Right. And at 4 a.m., I reflect for the day. All the things that I didn't do correct yesterday, these are the things that I put on my list that I need to nail today. Doesn't really matter what those things are. If you weren't true to yourself on your, physical delivery or your nutrition or how you were thinking or an argument with your girlfriend or professionalism, or you got angry with a stranger, these are the things that you write down. Like today, at the forefront of my mind, I need to nail being respectful to other humans. And I just can't be mean to someone. I need to control my emotions today in this aspect because yesterday I didn't maintain frame and I lost my cool on a stranger. Right. And this is a very difficult thing, but you must align yourself every day. So every day when I wake up, as soon as I wake up, I have a morning routine and I provide a post that the things that I'm reflecting on as adults and as a mentor to other people in the space, these are the things that I need to do. So it's reflection. You can meditate. Then we go straight from reflection to physical activity, right? So our weapon of choice is burpees. I'm a little bit older. I don't move too much. So I rotate between burpees and push-ups, right? So every day, every morning, I do 4 sets of 50 push-ups, 4 sets of 50 burpees, something like that to start my day, which helps align my energy to basically what's referred to as high vibration. You have a high vibration, which is basically enlightenment, right? Your purest self, and then low vibration, which is essentially toxic behavior and thoughts, right? So basically it resets you. You get a good pump, you get that adrenaline pushing through the body, the euphoria, etc. It resets your day. And then I go to the gym. So straight from there, it's right into the gym. And then we start the business day. It's an hour in the gym, done. And then, I'm online. So I'm running a business. So I have all the necessary things that I do. So before all of society is even awake at 7 a.m., I've put in several hours of self work just in the morning, just so I can approach the day as my best self. Right. So when I'm at work at 7 a.m., I am operating at full speed, right? Optimal me. My nutrition is aligned. I don't drink anymore at all. Not a drop. I don't smoke. I don't do any drugs. In the morning, I am at 100% capacity to execute business because I deal with a lot of people that have a lot of personal issues. So people that suffered in the way I suffered, they're calling me with their own problems, right? And you have to be operating at a really high position to handle their own pain and suffering. So that's how I start my day. That's the routine there.
Right. And I found in my own life, the days that I skip an exercise or I just, I'm going to take an extra hour of sleep or something like that. The whole rest of the day, I just feel off. I'm not the most efficient, most effective version of myself. Mine's a little bit more cloudy. I need something in the morning, especially to shake out the cobwebs and get myself up and moving. And it's not, the answer isn't, drink more coffee or, any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's go do something. And it could be simple. Like you said, it could just be something as simple as, doing some push-ups, doing some sit-ups, doing some burpees or something along those lines just to get you moving, get you going, go for a jog or something like that. Just something to the blood flowing and get your day started. Right. To me,
100%.
I find that is the best way to start your day off right. And I think like anybody, I mean, we're all human. There's going to be days when you're just like, I don't feel like doing this today, but screw it. Kick yourself out of bed and get into it. You owe it to yourself, really.
Yeah, 100%. These are non-negotiable things. So I don't negotiate with my inner bitch, if you will, for the audience. It's that voice that's, the devil, if you will, is on one shoulder and the angel's on the other, right? I don't listen to the devil anymore because it's never going away, right? That
Right.
temptation to relax, that temptation to put your feet up and watch Netflix all day, that temptation to drink, that temptation to not be truthful to yourself is always present. It never goes away. It's a monster that has latched on to your spirit and it's just there forever, right? So you can't negotiate with yourself. You have things that you've committed to do every single day and they just are non-negotiable. Now life will throw in a curveball. I'm not saying that won't miss a day at gym, right? I have children and a life and a personal life and, I own homes, etc. So there's things that life throws you automatically that gives you a day off, right? There'll be times where you get that call at 5 a.m. where one of your parents didn't wake up, something crazy. That's obviously I'm not doing burpees that morning, right? I'm going to handle
Right.
business as an adult because life throws you your own days off. You don't have to build days off and mental clarity days into your schedule. Those are already present. The reason why my routines are difficult because there's a link to, that spirituality link of, you look back in time, monks, Jesus, Mohammed, they all controlled what they put in their body, right? They ate a certain way. They fasted. Fasting's present through all of history, right? So that's controlling what you put into your body. Gluttony, which is how we live in modern society, is the exact opposite of enlightenment, right? And that's a key factor to the declining health of our entire country. At least 50% of the people suffer from being overweight or morbidly obese in our country. That's half. right? So when you look around anywhere, it depends on the part of the country, but in most parts of the country, you look around, the people are rather large and they're not controlling what they put in their body and they look exactly how they feel on the inside. So if they look like that on the outside, they're feeling like that on the inside, right? So they're not operating at their optimal position. My workouts are difficult. Once again, inducing difficulty, suffering, and pain, self-induced pain to grow, right? None of these things are hurting my body. This is the best shape I've ever been in since I was in the Marine Corps. I've lost 25 pounds I don't do cardio, but just the burpees, just the push-ups and a regular workout. I work out 6 hours a week. That's it. That's it. I read every day for 30 minutes, right? And I treat people with as much respect as I possibly can. It doesn't mean I'm their bitch, but I'm purposefully trying to avoid conflict. I will exercise you know, that beast when I have to. I'll break the shell and let them out, but that's only when necessary, right? In defense of my people, right? A friend of mine or something. We're gonna do it when we have to. But if I can avoid it, I'll avoid conflict the best I can.
Yeah, and I think anybody who's been to combat, they recognize what you're talking about there is that ability to rein in that inner beast that can definitely be unleashed when it's needed, but
Yeah.
you keep that beast at bay. You keep them locked up until he's needed because I mean, you will totally ruin relationships and probably get yourself into some trouble if you let that thing out too often, right?
Yeah, 100%. I come from a hyper violent family though. My dad
Mhm.
was no stranger to the law. As a kid, I got into trouble, drugs, alcohol, all those things, right? I played sports. Like I never got in trouble. I actually never got caught. And even when I got caught, I got out of being in trouble. I was always very crafty, so I see systems naturally and I find a way to exploit the systems. Well, I found a way to exploit the systems in my own body and mind. And that's exactly what I teach people to do. Like these things work, right?
Well,
So
yeah, let's talk about more about what you're doing now. You're on a mission now to basically help people become the best versions of themselves. And so let's talk about what it is that you're doing now and how you're helping people.
100%. So in recent months, I've left the defense industry. So I started a couple businesses. I knew I was very unhappy. Like I said, with a mentor, got me onto the right path. And I started putting in a lot of self work. I started two businesses in the background while I was working as an employee, a different industry, right? It's not in violation of my NDA. So those companies don't worry about coming after me. So I started two businesses. One of them is helping people, another one's in real estate investment. So my coaching component of my business is really where all my passion lies. And I push 100% of my efforts into helping people be better versions of themselves. So the exact systems and processes that I use in my own life that turned me around from, a degenerate alcoholic suffering from drug use and all the vices. I chased girls for fun and sport, right? I don't hunt animals. I would hunt people, if you will, right? It was what I would do to entertain myself, to keep me busy. I changed all those things and the same processes that changed me. That's what I teach people to do. So they get up at the same time I get up. They eat the same way. I put them on so I'm their life coach. We look at their life. I create them a custom workout plan, dial in their macros, and then put them on my mindset program. We have a weekly call, which keeps them in line. There's some book readings for different people, right? Some people are suffering from depression. They have unique books. Other people are suffering from alcohol, drug use, addiction. Those are entirely different vices. And there's a large group of just men finding their masculine calling again. In the last 5, 10 years, I think the male population has been really demasculated as a whole. I think we've seen a consistent, maybe media push, cultural change. Regardless, it doesn't matter the root cause, but men are suffering for being men, right? It's not cool anymore to be men. And we're seeing a lot of challenges in my male groups, specifically with their relationships are suffering, their bodies are suffering, they're embarrassed to be masculine, that toxic masculinity component, to have tattoos, to have muscles, to drive a nice car, to date an attractive woman, to be successful. These things have been interpreted as somewhat toxic by some personalities in the world. And I'm the counter to that. These things are okay. And I teach these men in the world, it is okay to have these values. Be an ethical man, of course. Do not be horrible. There's nothing wrong with teaching a man. It is okay to, train your body, do jujitsu, be a boxer, get some muscles, get a six pack abs, up their game professionally with their health and their wealth. This treat your woman with respect, be the man that, your children look up to you, their superhero, your living superhero. That's really my passion because I see a huge change in people from, you know, being depressed, anxious, suffering, just horrible life where they're considering suicide to in just, 3 months, 6 months. Some years take transformation, an entirely different man or woman. It's not just about men, but it's the men specifically are suffering in a unique way. And obviously I resonate very well with that suffering for the male population. So that's that is my entire passion.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, there is, I don't know where this came from, but this mindset that masculinity, being a strong man, is not an okay thing to be anymore. And, it's really given the rise to a weaker, softer population. And, men, I don't think men are wired to be that way. I mean, maybe
No,
yeah, there
no,
are some, but I think in general, men are more wired to be the stronger, the protector, and not to say that women are weak or anything like that. I don't want to get people all riled up about that, but I
that's
think that's just what men are wired to do, is to be the protectors, to be the providers, to like that just tends to be the way, I mean, look throughout history. That's just the way people
sure.
have existed, right? And now when you tell people that doing all of these things is bad, society doesn't want this, and it's like, okay, well, it's no wonder that so many people are out there taking their lives because they don't know where they even fit into the world anymore, you know?
100%. It's a delicate road, and I'm not suggesting that women are weak in any way. I work
Oh,
with
no.
some badass women. Be very clear, gentlemen. I work with badass women. These women are in special loans of the government with 3 letters. They they're physically fit. They do pull-ups, they do squats, they do deadlifts, they run families. Girls are badass too. Men in general, I think we've seen a dramatic change socially in the last 5, 10 years. So one of the areas that I get complaints from my female group is my hyper successful females, or we'll just call that group of any woman that makes over 100K, right? Doesn't matter. Just that's an anomaly in society. They're the highest percentile earners for females. So any woman making over 100K, they all have the same complaints. Where are all the good men at? All of them, right? The ones that I coach on their relationships and how men think, they're hyper interested in understanding what's inside alpha-ish male minds. I give them some insight as to what interests men so they can better manage their own lives. Right. And what I see is the statistics is that the world's moving into online dating. This has been happening for several years. Well, 85% of all the women are only interested in the top 15% of men. Means that on the scale of 0 to 10, right? 10 being the highest caliber man that you could possibly imagine for a female, tall, dark, handsome, has money, all that good stuff that whatever women are interested in. 85% of all the women are only swiping on the top 15% of men. So the very premium part of society, 85% of all men are scrambling and pawing for the attention of the bottom 15% of all female energy. It means that most of the men on that entire platform get almost no attention from any females at all, while the top tier males like me get all the attention from all the women, right? So women are hyper selective. This alienates the majority of men, right? So I teach men, say, this is the way culture is, the way humans are evolved. And I'm not saying 100% of all women, but if we take a whole and a statistic, the majority of women, if given an option, are going to choose the best possible option for themselves. That's human nature. I'm not bagging girls for how that works, right? If I had the choice between an ugly woman or attractive woman, I want an ugly woman. That's, fits into my life. So I have a choice, right? And so do they. So they're picking the cream of the crop, all the women, not just the
Right.
top tier. So I help men to become the best version of themselves so they themselves have statistical advantage, at least in the dating market. They have an advantage everywhere in life if they're their best selves. They don't have to worry about anything when they're continually working on themselves. I always tell them what I was told my mentor says, create the man or the woman you want to be that deserves a life worth living. So really what that essentially means is all the things in the life that you wish you were living, right? If you're seeing someone driving around a Ferrari, well, you need to be doing the things that men and women that drive Ferraris do, or you'll never have one, right? The habits and the behaviors that those people do. If you want a person that is going to get into a marriage, right? You don't say, look, I found a good woman and now I'll become a great husband. That's stupid, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to change when I've already got the prize in life. No, that's not the way the world works. You must give before you receive. So you become a great husband first. Then you'll automatically get a good wife. You don't have to worry about getting a good wife. You just do all the things that a good husband would do. And what I think a good husband would do is he provides for his family. He's willing to protect his family. He's honest and communicates well with his partner. And that nails the majority of the problems in all relationships, right? He provides, he has money, he works, he's a professional. You can provide for a good family if you nail those four things alone, right? Same with a woman. If she wants to be married and have kids, well, you need to be doing the things a good wife would do. Whatever you write down what a good wife is, you should start doing those things now instead of later when you found a good man. He won't want to stay around. He knows you're acting. If he knows you're not a good woman and worth keeping around, he's like, oh, you're going to change who you are when once you found a good man. This sounds ridiculous to say it out loud. So
Right.
that's my
When you
philosophy.
when you start doing these things that make you this better version of yourself, and it just becomes part of who you are, becomes a habit. This is now who you are. You can actually change your actions and your behaviors, and you can now make this a part of your DNA. This is now you. And then it's not acting, right? This is maybe a shift in what you normally were doing, but you're working to create a better version of yourself. And so all of that does require some change, because if you keep doing the same thing that you've always done, you're going to keep getting the same thing that you've always gotten. So, yeah, you're going to have to change. But like you said, if you change at the wrong time, if you change too late, like, oh, I
Yeah.
found this person, well, that person's going to see right through it and be like, okay, well, how long is that really going to last? Right. Like,
Yeah.
let's be
Particularly
real.
for, yeah, particularly for men. I mean, women hold the sexual marketplace advantage. Any woman, it never has to live alone. They don't. They really don't. They have the choice. They're the gatekeepers to intimacy, right? A woman never has to be alone. A man, though, men have to work and earn their position in the dating market a little bit differently than females. I mean, I dated a lot of attractive women in my life. They have a list of dudes in their phone, right? Right. That they can pull from at any time and say, hey, look, I just had some issues with Clinton. We got a big fight. Like, why don't you come over and, let's have a glass of wine and talk about how horrible that was. He would probably have like a 90 percentile kill rate in the first 10 people she hit on her phone to come over and have a glass of wine. Whereas me, I might do the same thing. I might get like a 5% were like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea, Clem. Let me come over here and get drunk with you. Like, just since you broke
Right.
up with your girl. Like, no, that doesn't work like that. So we have inverse statistics when it comes to romance and dating. It's not all about girls. It's simply what we're doing is forcing some adversity in a person's world, right? Through nutrition, restrictive nutrition and fitness, which is developing discipline, habits, and then delayed gratification. All successful people possess delayed gratification, right? Which means that I'll forego temporary comfort for compounding reward later, right? So we're teaching that. It's really hard to teach that as an adult or even as a child. They either have it or they don't. And then to learn that behavior is really difficult to learn. But once they learn that, the discipline, habits, delayed gratification, they can apply those simple pillars to every aspect in their life. And they now become unstoppable because they have confidence. They mastered their body. I mean, there's only, I think, 25,000 people running around the United States with six-pack abs. There's 25 million people that are millionaires, right? So mastering your body culturally in the United States is way more difficult than becoming a millionaire statistically. So when you nail that, now that opens up a whole can of worms of opportunity in your life, right? If you had to choose between being having six pack abs or not, right? Man or woman, you'd say, oh, yeah, I'd love to get into that bikini and have great six pack abs, right? You'd be so confident, so powerful, right? That opens up opportunities everywhere because now you've mastered your mind and your body to do something way harder. You just build on it, right? Our next goal will be even more difficult. Like, hey, look, I want to go get these skills from Grant Cardone or Andy Frisella. I want to pick one of those masterminds, Wes Watson. It doesn't matter. I'm going to pick this person to be my new mentor. And whatever they say to get me to the next level of society, like I'm going to do those things. And they have the discipline to go anywhere they so choose.
Yeah, and I think discipline is key to all of this. Even with respect to take it back a little bit here to dealing with the PTSD
Right.
and conquering that. I mean, I know there are people who I've talked to who have gone through, various therapies and other things like that, but they didn't stick with it. They didn't have that discipline built in to stick with it. It's like, oh, well, I'm not seeing the results right now. We're very much in a on-demand society. We want to see the
Yeah.
results now, just like, you turn on Netflix and boom, you got the show that you want to watch right now, or you order something from Amazon and boom, it's at your doorstep a few hours later. Very much on demand, and when you're not seeing the results from the maybe counseling or therapy sessions that you might be going to in the first, week or two, y- people's attention starts to wander and like, okay, well, maybe this isn't working for me, but also maybe you just didn't give it enough time and have that discipline to just focus on that particular task to get that area of your right life situated and get that right before you just bite off a bigger piece of something else, right? So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of benefits coming from living a well-disciplined life, and through the stuff that you're talking about here, I think that will give people the opportunity to experience that. Many people listening to this have been in the military; they know about discipline, but when you don't have somebody standing over you, making sure that you're being disciplined, sometimes
Right.
we let that slip, right? So having, somebody in your corner like yourself to help keep you on that track, to make sure that you're doing the things that you're supposed to do, not slipping and doing the wrong things that are going to just lead you in the wrong direction could be a huge help, right?
Yeah, 100%. The reason why is that you can't see the problem when you're in it,
Yeah.
right? So there's an old saying, you got to step outside of the problem to see it. Like look at it, the problem from a different angle. So when you're doing things, there's such micro incremental change and self improvement with the human body. It doesn't matter. Use a pregnant woman, for example. Like you don't know, she doesn't look pregnant. Like she could be a week pregnant, 2 weeks pregnant, a month, two, three. Like you might not even notice if you saw her every day. Like at some point you'd be like, wow, like that belly's getting big, girl. Like good job. Like, but over time, since you're in the moment, you don't see the change. Now, that
Yeah.
one woman that hasn't seen a friend in 30 days that didn't know she was pregnant, right? When she saw someone, they'd be like, hey, what's going on here? You're glowing. She's like, oh, yeah, I'm pregnant. Like, I'm been pregnant for 30 days. We're so happy. Right. So, in the moment, you can't see it, but everybody external to you can. That's the power of a mentor because they're looking at your life from non-objective outside way. So they're in the best position to help you change because you don't see the change. You don't see how far you've come. You won't notice that you've lost any weight until you have to change pants, right? Or get a new belt. You just won't notice. You see yourself every day in the mirror. I can't remember what the medical term is for, you not seeing your body the way it is. You see it a different way, right? When I go to the gym, since I see this body all the time, I don't actually feel like I'm the biggest guy in the gym. Right? Other people tell me like, dude, you're jacked or, your transformation has been is crazy in the last 6 months. I don't see it. I live like this. So I'm just trying to be better today than I was yesterday. I just focus on 24-hour day. I'm going in the right direction. I know the direction I'm heading, right? Sitting on top of the mountain, helping as many people as humanly possible. That's what I want to do. But I can't see it in the moment because this is where I'm at. So the mentor I have, I'm not going to not have a mentor. Even I have a mentor. I think last year, I think in the last 2 months, what are we in February? Between December and January, I spent, I think, $15,000 on mentorship and personal development, right? Someone else has the knowledge, right? In all of life, there's someone holds the keys to either knowledge or your next level of advancement. Like if you want to go from a poor kid to a middle class kid, right? What are you supposed to do? You go to college. If you don't go to college, you don't even get interviewed for the job,
Right.
right? So you have to give your money to the institution of higher education to break through that next level, right? And that takes you from probably lower class up into the middle class zone, depending on the type of job you have, right? And then to go from the middle class to the upper class or higher upper class, it doesn't matter. There is a pay to play system in all of life. Someone else is holding the keys to your own success. They either have the knowledge or the skills or they open doors for you. That's it. Right. So it's not what you know, it's who you know. Point of my life, I'm not 20 anymore. I understand that I'm running out of time. So time's a commodity I don't get back. I just pay for the access to the next level. Right. I don't need to spend 30 years, 40 years, 50 years trying to figure out what Grant Cardone did. Right. For the last 50 years. Like, fuck that. Like, I just call Grant, like, hey, dude, like, what's your business mentorship program? Like, put me on it. Like, how much? He's like, yeah, you get 4 calls for 100,000 or whatever Grant charges. I don't even know. It doesn't matter. Like, you just write the check because he's going to give you the insight to the business and every lessons he's learned. He's saving you a huge chunk of your time. And I don't have endless time. So that's how I approach life because it works. And so many people have their ego in place. They're like, oh, I don't need to pay. Right. Well, what you're saying is you don't need to pay because you don't believe in investing yourself and you're going to get the same results that you've always had. Likelihood that you can just magically figure out in a rapid rate is essentially blind luck. Right.
Yeah. And if you're just really just wishing that luck is going to carry you through, chances are it's not going to happen. Yeah, there are lucky people out there. They catch some great
Yeah.
breaks and it happens. It does. Don't get me wrong. Cause I know people probably reach out and be like, oh no, what about this guy who he was like completely lucky? He had, what I get it. Yeah. There are
Yeah.
lucky people out there, but that luck is not a strategy. And I
Yeah.
think what people are missing is that strategy piece where they sit down and take a informed look at their life and really tackle the problem areas by the hot spots, tackle those things and get better in those areas so that they can become that bigger, better version of themselves. It is really, I think at the end of the day, that's simple that just focus on these areas and you'll start to see other areas of your life start to improve. And it just has a compounding effect where one thing makes another thing easier, which makes another thing easier. And then
Right.
you just get better at these things, right?
You,
Uh,
yeah.
and I say easier, but I don't mean necessarily that you're gonna now live an easy life. Like you still are gonna go to the gym and you're still gonna lift those weights. And just because when you first started, you were on the lower level of weights, doesn't mean that you're just gonna keep on doing that same thing. You're gonna add the
Yeah.
weight and you're gonna get better and better, right? And but where you started will be easier, but you're gonna keep adding new stuff to make it that much harder, right?
Right. They just become the baseline now. So where
Yeah.
when you start, getting up early is really difficult. You're like, shit, I'm gonna be tired all day. So what? Like, that's great. We want you tired all day because that's a new state of execution, right? If you're entirely comfortable, you're approaching the every single day with low adversity, right? So your ability to handle new stressors is low, right? So my wake up is non-negotiable. The things that I do not deviate. And the reason is that if I'm going to go out late, my girl or my family or whatever, doesn't matter. I have business endeavors that we're doing and it runs into the evening. I might get home at 4:20 in the morning. My wake up's at 4 a.m. So I got negative sleep and I'm going right into my day, right? Under adversity. Now that's most people won't do that. They'll go to sleep, they'll wake up at 2, 3, and then it throws off their whole day. Their productivity's off, right? Like I said, I'm trying to run down the competition. I'm trying to catch up in life. I'm trying to achieve everything I can achieve down to the last genetic spin of my genome, right? That's my goal, right? So I need as much opportunity as I can to put in as much work as I can. So I don't negotiate on those things. I just get up and go right into the day. Yeah, I'll be pissed off. We'll be honest. I'll be really pissed off. But then I have to manage life in that state. Remember, I've got my non-negotiables of things that I fucked up with yesterday. I'm trying to nail today. Right. So even though I'm upset, even though I had low sleep, I'm hungry, carbohydrate deprived, it doesn't matter. Right. We're still executing the day like always. Right. And then there comes the growth because you need to hold back that time you want to snap on someone. That lady pulls out in front of you, right? You're tired and cranky and you want to lose your shit on them. You don't. Right. And that's the struggle, is that now you have a breakthrough in growth because you introduced adversity. Now, the next time that I go back to my comfortable day, you're like, shit. The next time someone pulls out in front of me, like, I got this. It's just like yesterday was a
Right.
really bad day. Right. And today's sweet. So we just make hard things our baseline and then we don't worry about them. They're habits. So going to the gym, waking up early, hitting your macros, those things are all easy. None of those are difficult once they're routine, it's like 60 to 90 days, you start to develop long-term habits. So then you don't think about those things. You just nail them. Like for me to measure my food, it might take someone forever because they convince themselves they can't do it. Like, oh, I'm not measuring chicken and rice and vegetables. Like, fuck that. Like, I want to go back to being fat. That's easy. Like a burger's easy. I just shoot burger right off of McDonald's. I measure my food. I think I clocked it once. It takes me 7 minutes to measure all my food in the day, right? And log it. It takes me longer to microwave the food than it fucking does to measure it. So it's not that long. I cook everything in the crock pot. I order the food, like pre-made meals that I need or whatever. It's super simple. Super simple. Going to gym, it's an hour a day. I'm not spending 3 hours a day like on the treadmill and that bullshit. Like I don't do that. Like it's all efficiency. I'm trying to get in and out and get the results I want with hard effort, but I don't need it to eat up a lot of time. Right.
Right.
Everything we're trying to make is just get better and better. Right. Doesn't matter what it is. Like
Exactly.
this podcast took me forever to register to. Like I convinced myself I wasn't good enough for the camera. I talked myself out of it. It's like, what do I have to say? No one cares what Clinton has to say in the world. Right. And eventually I just did it. And, that's kind of the key to everything. Everything that you're fearful of, you just need to do more of.
Just rip the Band-Aid off and just do it. Right.
Just
Get it
go
over
for
with.
it. You're going to suck. Make no mistake. You're going to suck. You suck the first time you kiss that girl or boy. You suck the first time you bought a house or a car. You got screwed over, right? You suck the first time you're having that deep emotional conversation with someone. You sucked in the gym. You suck all the time. You're never going to get better at anything until you just put in the cycles. That's the truth. That's the way it works.
If anyone wants a great example of you sucked at the beginning, go back and listen to the first few episodes of this podcast. I sucked in the beginning. I didn't know what the hell I was doing with this
Right.
podcast. I had no experience hosting or producing a podcast at all. I just said, I'm going to do it. And I started and I got better as time went on. And this is now, I think, episode 260 something or whatever. Like I didn't give up just because I sucked in the beginning. I kept
Right.
going. And here we are now with hours and hours of content that people, are having their lives improved by listening to the messages that people like yourself and other guests have had to offer. And so, I'm just out there trying to put out as many of these types of episodes as I can, learn along the way. I'm still not the top podcaster in the world. Like I understand there's still
Yeah.
things I could do better. I know
Yeah.
this. And as I find new ways of doing things and, different ways of making things better, I incorporate that into my workflow and then I end up with a better product, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So before we wrap up this episode, where can people go to get in touch with you and find out more about the mentorships and things that you
Sure.
do?
Okay. So the easiest way is to just look me up on Instagram. It's San Diego _Clinton, the number one. That's where you find me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Snapchat. I'm on everything. Facebook, Google, it doesn't matter. I'm TikTok. I'm on everything. But the place where you see my insight into my life, my routines, and my processes is just find me on Instagram. San Diego _Clinton, the number one. You find me there. You'll automatically just look for the bald, beautiful man. You can't miss them with tattoos. And then just send me a message. Anything that you got going on in your life that you're struggling with, send a message. Let's open up a conversation. At the very worst, follow my page and check out my entertaining life. I have a beautiful son. He has six-pack abs. I'm so jealous of him because I didn't when I was a kid. I was a fat kid. So he's got a great mentor and a dad driving him. My ex-wife, like we discussed, I repaired the relationship with her, repaired the relationship with my children. So I'm living my best life ever. And it's kind of an interesting show. I've been to 30 something countries. And I've been all over the place. So you'll enjoy the show for sure. I'm surrounded by beautiful people, male and female. I have amazing mentors, top-notch life. And I'm always trying to help people do crazy things. So I'll be breaking into the YouTube space here in the next 30 days. So everybody will see that first episode drop by the time this episode drops.
Excellent. Well, I will have links to all of those social media channels in the show notes of this episode. So anyone who wants to get in touch with you or check out what you do and just follow along, they can click through on the show notes and follow from there. So Clinton, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you for sharing your story of how you overcame your PTSD and the struggles that you were having and how you're now going on and helping other people make better versions of themselves.
Hey, I appreciate it, Scott. Thank you for having me on. And I think you might be the best podcast in the world. So,
Well,
here we
I'm
go.
working towards it.
We'll see if we can get you on one of those satellite shows, Sirius or
Excellent.
XM, whoever's out there. All right, man. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Look forward to, let's do this again sometime when you have time.
Thanks for listening to the Drive On podcast. If you want to support the show, please check out Scott's book, Surviving Son, on Amazon. All of the sales from that book go directly back into this podcast and work to help veterans in need. You can also follow the Drive On podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.